Welcome to the weekend. It is the Earthmaster here on this Saturday, August 19th, 2023. It's about 12:02 p.m. California time, and latest activity here with Hurricane Hilary still sitting at a Category 3 hurricane. Now a little bit of a degradation from last night. 150 mile per hour sustained winds, pressure rising as well, 28.29 inches there. Again, Category 3. It is headed off and into some cooler waters. It is running up also against some resistance, meaning this high pressure system over here kicking up the upper level winds and just trying to keep that hurricane down in the Baja California area, so that will ultimately shred it even further throughout the day today and into tomorrow and Monday. So right now it is speeding up slightly here, heading off to the let's bring up the National Hurricane Center's latest advisory here. Here they are claiming 115 miles per hour. It's heading off to the north-northwest at 16 miles per hour, so things are picking up slightly with the speed and movement far as the direction of this hurricane goes. We are looking at some wind gusts in there. I think this site shows it wind gusts up to 135 miles per hour, but these guys are showing 100 mile per hour sustained wind. So which one do you choose, Weather Underground or the official National Hurricane Center? We'll probably go with the official one, right? So they're stating 115 mile per hour sustained winds. Now this thing is definitely not it's not going to be a Hurricane 3 when it gets to the California area. It's definitely going to drop. There is still a hurricane warning here in the red outline there around the Baja California area. And then a hurricane watch in the pink. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me pull this up slightly. Roughly in the outline of this blue right here. That doesn't quite go up to the Baja California border area where it extends into a tropical storm warning, which still exists there across the Southern California area. We'll talk about Los Angeles southward here. So things haven't really changed much in that department. And this is because they've expected this thing to weaken, not gain strength overnight, which it did. We're not looking at a major degradation, but definitely see it on the satellite view. Check this out here real quick. Here's the latest imagery. It's just within that zone right here where it's hard to find a specific section of GO-16 satellite. So I'm having to use this one until we get a little bit further north here, and then I can switch over to a different satellite view. But here's the hurricane Hilary, which looks like there's still quite a bit of convection and strength over here on the northeastern segment of the eye wall. The eye wall itself looks like it may be in a reforming phase, or potentially just we will no longer see the eye because it's just weakening and again heading into some cooler waters and running up against resistance there in the upper atmosphere. Far as those pressures go from the high pressure sitting off in the Pacific over here. If this thing was parked a little bit further west, it could allow this thing to come up a little bit more easier and stronger. So everything's got to be lined up correctly. But either way, we're still looking at some tropical storm force winds coming into Southern California. We're talking about 57 mile per hour winds out there around San Diego area. Here is the line of uncertainty once again here. Right now, the middle path right here in between San Diego and the Salton Sea area. Here's the Salton Sea kind of outlined over here underneath this flag. And that's a cone of uncertainty. But either way, the trend here looks like it has moved further to the east, or at least northeast here on this map. Tomorrow, 1700. Remember, first couple days here, we were looking at a arrival of Monday morning. And then it got backed up to Sunday night. Now, look at that. Tomorrow afternoon. Goodness. So this thing is kicking up. At least it will be daylight still when this thing arrives. So, but far as, if you guys are getting prepared here for this rainmaker, it's not going to be a huge wind event. The main threat's going to be some flooding rain, flash flooding. Maybe some strong embedded thunderstorms there. We'll check out the severe potential here in a little bit. But the main threat's definitely going to be, 57 mile per hour winds. That's not that big of a deal. But you throw in some rain in there, it could make it a little worse. Either way, 57 mile per hour wind gusts there tomorrow around 1700. That's going to be about 5 o'clock or so in the afternoon, late afternoon time period. Currently 115. In between here, it's only going to degrade further, as you can see here on this map. We're at roughly right about here. Should weaken even further down to a Category 2, the orange dot. Yellow dot here, Category 1. So it's going to be even a Category 1 before it gets down or up to the Southern California area where it's expected to be tropical storm. 39 to 73 mile per hour winds there. And then, of course, further up, tropical depression. But it's kind of cool still to think that this is going to make it all the way up here into Nevada area. You know, it's... Me, I'm a weather guy, so I would personally like to see it a little bit stronger, stretching over towards my neck of the woods, so I get to experience it. But, hey, it's kind of cool at least seeing this historic event take place, definitely. So let's look at some of the detailed items out here with regards. This is the latest information here, by the way, 12 p.m. This is going to be mountain time. They update it every 3 hours. It's not a huge hurricane. It's not expected to produce some catastrophic damage to Southern California. The only main threat is going to be some, again, like I say, some winds, potentially up to 57 miles per hour, and heavy rain. Quite a bit of rain. So that's going to be the main threat. Current warnings right there. As mentioned, here's a different map showing the surface wind field estimate right now. There's those tropical storm winds and the kind of orangish color hitting the southern tip here of Baja California. The center of circulation here is going to be the strongest winds, hurricane force winds. So you can see the current estimated wind field, so to speak, on that map. There's the cones. Here's another cone map here where we can kind of zoom in. I don't think Toronto's got a hurricane. Let's go back over here. There's those tropical storm warnings there in Southern California again, and you can see it covers all the way up past Los Angeles, actually. So flash flooding potential hasn't really changed much. In fact, if anything, it's gotten broader here, it looks like, far as the area of high risk, at least 70%. Last night, I think this was a little bit smaller, but now there's a bigger range here covering roughly from the border east of San Diego up through 29 Palms, Salton Sea area. Trying to think if Ridgecrest might be in there potentially, but either way, this is right over the San Andreas Fault, man. The southern segment is going to be interesting to see how this plays out again. But aside from this, the 70%, there's still a good moderate risk out here that covers Los Angeles, San Diego. So you guys are in the big threat as well. We're going to look at the expected, what the radar will look like here in a few minutes. Current radar, let's bring up the radar imagery here. It's shooting off some bands of rain into Southern California. Most of this right now is relatively light activity. Doesn't look like there's any thunderstorms in there. It's just some light, maybe some embedded pockets of moderate rain, but most of the big time activity right now is still centered around the Hurricane Hilary itself. Notice some thunderstorms over here, and all that's expected to move up into Southern California. So right now, not that big of a deal with in terms of the rainfall, but that will be changing here soon. Again, here's another estimate. Well, these guys still showing 115. Looks like yesterday, potentially, the strongest it got was 145 miles per hour. Goodness. So that was 145, still up there in a Category 4. It would take 157 mile per hour winds or greater for Category 5. It's still pretty crazy. Strengthened for a little bit, but we only expect this thing to weaken further as it heads into the Southern California area. Again, tomorrow around 5 o'clock landfall. You guys will see the effects of this well before then, though. I mean, we're already seeing those bands of showers stretch up into Southern California. Wind speed probabilities here, tropical storm force wind speed probabilities. There you go. Still looks like around 50 to 60% chance here. This is for the 120-hour mark. I believe this is obviously going to cover the arrival time as well. So tropical storm force winds here. 70% it looks like they're east of San Diego. 60% a little bit further up north. Of course, this is all going to weaken. And as it heads into a tropical depression phase in Nevada, well, you know, it's going to be a tropical depression. Winds of less than 39 miles per hour. But still might be a little gusty and some rain. Definitely heading for Nevada as well. Here's the estimated U.S. quantitative precipitation map here. This is where supposedly it's going to accumulate the most. And as you can see here on the map, well, it just disappeared. Still got these areas right here outside of San Diego. These are some pretty impressive rainfall totals. Again, upwards of 6 inches. Notice this chart over here. 4 would be in the yellow. So anywhere between 4 to 6 inches in the yellow here. Anywhere between 6 and 10 inches potentially in the orange colored area. So, you know, could be between 6 and 10 in these orange. So definitely watch that for that rainfall and flooding threat out there. It's kind of a definitely a rainmaker. Earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds here. Sunday, 8 a.m. is this line, it looks like. So we're talking about tomorrow already. And then after that, you know, it's going to head in around 5 p.m. supposed to be landfall up here. So we should see those tropical storm force winds well before then there in Southern California. Let's take a look at, here's the weather warnings out here across the area. Of course, we do have those tropical storm warnings in Southern California. Moderate risk for northwest and northeast winds to reach 35 knots. Looks like maybe some large swells out there as well. Not a time to be out there in the sea or in the ocean, that's for sure. So take heed to your warnings out there. Here's again a little bit better map of the tropical storm warning up here. Barstow northward got a flood watch. I believe that covers, here's a hurricane local statement. That's crazy to think about. But there's also flood watches that cover this area as well. It's just underneath these more serious threats, so to speak. Remember, severe is going to be in the orange. Moderate is going to be in the yellow. That's covering this up. But there is definitely flood watches out through here. And that's probably going to turn into a flood, potentially a flood warning throughout the day tomorrow. Definitely expecting to receive rainfall amounts that are comparable to or exceeding average annual totals. So we're talking about tomorrow, the majority of these places down in Southern California could pick up a year's worth of average rainfall. Pretty crazy to think about, right? You throw all that on top of the San Andreas Fault there, and let's see what happens. Either way, if you're out there traveling across the interstates, expect some flash flooding out there. Just probably a good day if you can. A couple good days if you can just stay home this weekend and just, you know, make sure things are good on the home front if you can. That way you don't run into any flooding issues out there if you're out and about driving, that is. Another satellite view here. It's definitely getting, there's a center of the eye right there, just barely visible. Let's go ahead and check out the GFS model here, and this will give us a good indicator too of where it's headed potentially. Of course, forecast models are what the National Weather Service use, and that's kind of what we're going to stick to as well. There's all that rainfall heading up in Southern California. This model here, though, shows Northern California getting a little bit of rainfall. Most of the time, the GFS is the more accurate one, I think. There's that heavy-duty band right here, right over, looks like just west of the Salton Sea area. And then heading up north and then dissipating even further. Let me check out the accumulated precipitation here on this one, because it's, everyone's got their own weather models they like to use. Still looks roughly about the same as yesterday. A little bit more aggressive up here in Northern California. That would be okay with me because we could use some rain. Darker color blues, potentially maybe half an inch to an inch of rain up here. Certain areas, that's good because we do have some fires up here that could use some water on them. Here's the accumulated precipitation again. Southern California, you're going to get wet. It's not going to be hit and miss like thunderstorm activity does. Shouldn't be any rain shadows out here. This is just going to be a downpour of moisture. And again, most models here showing about 6 inches or less, roughly around there. 5 to 6 inches consistently, though, across a good portion of Southern California. And this is just one weather model showing that potential. Here's the NAM 3KM. Let's see if we can bring up I don't know if HRR is working or not. It's still a ways out. Here's the localized area of where some of the heaviest rain could fall. The GFS model, or the we were using the oops, I just changed that up. We're using the NAM 32KM on the other one. But this one right here kind of defines where some of the hot spots of heavier precipitation could be there in the yellow. And like I say, it could be locally heavier in certain areas. They're just given a... it doesn't want to go up any higher. Okay. But they're just given a estimate of, quantity of precipitation on these former maps I just showed you. But here showing... goodness, some of these regions, seeing like 14 inches of rain. I don't know if that's going to happen there in the yellow, but either way, the models are aggressive here in this with this hurricane. Let me go back here and double check something. I want to check out just the NAM 3KM model, and this is what radar should look like once these storms start coming in here to the Southern California area. There's probably going to be the potential here of some thunderstorms once that main band comes in the area of circulation. That will be a tropical storm before it rapidly weakens to a tropical depression. Now this one's still showing what looks like some rainfall up in Northern California, but Southern California, as you can see, it's going to be wet. I don't think there's going to be anyone down there that doesn't get rainfall. I'll be surprised. But there it is. That's what the radar should look like as tropical storm by then. Hilary hits the Southern California area and, of course, moves north. Nevada is going to get quite a bit of rainfall as well. Look at that. And they need it. It's a desert out there, right? Sometimes the desert needs the rain. They're definitely thirsty for some water. Help with the wildlife out there for sure. Maybe recharge some of the groundwater out there. So again, that's the latest information there on Hurricane Hilary. We will continue, of course, to monitor that for the latest. If you're looking on your app, if you're looking on your desktop or computer, TV, and you want to look at these yourself, I would suggest getting the windy map here. It's a really cool app that allows you to do many different things here. You can put on CO2 emissions, SO2 emissions, smoke from wildfires. It's basically an all-in-one app. There's so many layers here. Freezing temperatures, solar power, UV index, clouds, high clouds, low clouds, wind accumulation, where the wind could push the smoke up against, like in the mountain range or the valley somewhere. I pay for the premium. I don't know what it is. It's not that much a year, but it's definitely worth it if you're in tune to keeping up to date on what's going on as far as the weather and everything else goes. You can add on, like I said, SO2, Cape Index. Now the thunderstorm activity. Let's see what we got here for thunderstorms. This is the Cape value. We determine the potential for thunderstorm activity through Cape Value. This is for today. Mountains up here in Northern California. There's some thunderstorm activity starting to pick up. Should amplify throughout the afternoon and move northward. Looks like Fresno area, San Joaquin Valley going to get some rainfall as well. Tomorrow, right about the time the brunt of this hurricane comes in, most of the activity, the convection, will be on the eastern side as that pulls up and helps provide lift to the moisture there. But it doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot of thunderstorm activity associated with the arrival of the area of circulation there, the tropical storm Hilary. Most of the thunderstorm activity looks like it's going to be in the bands ahead today and maybe overnight. I remember down in the Gulf here covering one of these hurricanes. I was just outside the outer bands here, and basically what it is just a bunch of heavy rain, warm rain, and some wind. I don't recall seeing a lot of lightning in these hurricanes. I've only experienced, just that one or two. They were kind of weak, but I'm sure they have. I'm definitely sure they have lightning in them when they're really strong. Weather radar once again. Doesn't look like they have this area covered offshore, but of course the lightning will show up just like over here in Florida. Always getting lightning capital of the world, so to speak. It would show up as flashes there on the map, and that's just not happening right now. But here in Northern California, where I'm at, I'll be lucky if we get any sprinkles, any rain. Got any buoys out there stirring things up from the hurricane? Where hurricane's stirring up the buoys? Doesn't look like it. At least for now. We'll watch these Southern California ones, see if they get into event mode or not. You could get some large swells out there. We'll continue to watch that as well. All right, let's see what we got for earthquake activity. That's another thing, right? Got a hurricane approaching a region of quite a bit of strain here against the Pacific Plate. This is the San Andreas Fault. Been locked and loaded. Been building up strain for over 300 years. They use that term, locked and loaded, because what's it going to take to trigger it? We see earthquake swarms occasionally down here. Not quite into the triggering zone, as some geologists claim, but what's going to happen when you put half a foot of rain on here in a broad area, or maybe more? I think we could be looking at seeing some earthquake possibilities. The percentages, I think, will go up with this storm that we see a big one out here along the San Andreas Fault. It's just not, as I said in my video last night, it's just not one area that's going to get a rainfall, heavy-duty rainfall event, say like this segment right here from 5 to 10 miles north of the Salton Sea area. It's going to be this whole area receiving massive amounts of rainfall. So that's something to think about here and something to watch. If it does happen, then obviously this will go into the history books in terms of possibly predicting or maybe warning people that hurricanes, heavy rainfall events can trigger earthquakes, especially on a locked and loaded fault system out here. What's it going to take is the question. Is Hilary going to produce an 8.1? We'll see. All right now a couple twos going on here near the Sulphur Mountains area of Southern California. Looks like what's that, off of Lion Canyon Fault down in Southern California. A little bit further here, things are quiet for now. A handful of smaller quakes up against the San Jacinto mountain range. The San Andreas Fault here looks fairly quiet for now. Again, we'll continue to watch that. Some activity yesterday from the just north of the Garlock Fault shear zone, a 3.0 coming in. Up in Northern California, very spotty. Not a whole lot going on. Things look very quiet. But then again, it is the weekend. The USGS does not really show earthquakes out here unless it's above a 2.5 threshold. That's just how it is. They don't show 1-pointers or 2.1s. Same for Yellowstone. That's why it's always absent out here on the holidays and the weekends. Why, I don't know, but that's just how it is. Yellowstone National Park, Just double check that, see what we got going on. Definitely some earthquake activity. Notice these little spikes here, but those are all below the 2.5 threshold. Therefore, the USGS will not show them. But there's definitely a little handful there. It looks like yesterday, overnight sometime. Rest of the country, a little spotty activity through Kansas yesterday, and a cluster of earthquake activity in Oklahoma, it looks like, this morning. Not for sure what's going on out here outside of El Reno. Not for certain if there's any oil fields here or not, but they're seeing a little bit of earthquake activity in Oklahoma in the last 24. One earthquake outside the New Madrid seismic zone near Strawberry, Arkansas. Ooh, strawberries are good. Batesville, 1.7 earlier this morning, just after midnight there. The rest of the country, pretty quiet. Movement across the Guatemala, well, this is Mexico area, it looks like 4.6 from this morning. 91 kilometers deep into the Middle America Trench. The EMSC model globe here. Showing a handful of clustering going on across the Middle America Trench. We are continuing to watch that. I did add the EMSC model here onto the globe once again so we can monitor the worldwide activity on the smaller magnitude scale. South America pretty active here with some 3s and 2s kicking off. What do we got for large scale activity? Anything kicking off here overnight? Activity yesterday from that 5.4 Easter Islands. Looks like for the most part today, the activity stretching up here across the Himalayas, eastern Afghanistan, China region. I did see 5.0 north of the India area off the Himalayas here. The latest one, a little bit further south into India, 4.7, 35 kilometers deep. So things are starting to accumulate far as strain and stress goes, specifically around this region, getting a little bit of back and forth here. Deeper activity to the west, shallower here to the east. Watch this middle point here. When we see that happen, that could be a sign that something's about ready to pop in that area. Got some movement across Turkey as well. Looks like some 3s and maybe even a 4 or 2 in there. Not a whole lot showing up from the USGS there, but definitely seeing some activity. And the Atlantic Ocean, pretty clear and quiet according to both agencies. Not a whole lot being reported there as far as earthquake activity for now. The big island of Hawaii, been watching Kilauea volcano, but it has been backing off here in terms of earthquake activity. Looks like just a handful of smaller quakes on the south edge here of the Kilauea volcano. So things tapering off slightly. Movement across Bahala and Mauna Loa picking up slightly. A little bit of activity on the west coast here near Captain Cook, Hawaii with a 2.3. Latest informational statement here from the HVO with regards to Kilauea volcano. This was put out this morning. It's not erupting. No unusual activity has been noted around the rift zones there on the Big Island. So it looks like earthquake activity has decreased compared to the past 3 weeks of increased seismic activity. Increases in ongoing summit inflation have also stopped. It is unclear whether these decreases are a short pause in the elevated unrest or a return to recent background levels. I think it's just in a pause for now. My observation. All right, space weather activity. We are steady as she goes there. Just under the C flare category. That is pretty low. Looking at 99% chance for a C flare, though. M flare at 20, X flare around 1%. These are very modest measurements there, or at least forecasts. Looking at the UV filter array here. Not a whole lot of flaring going on currently. We're still watching the eastern limb over here for some new development. But even at a visual glimpse here of it, things look disorganized and not well put together. Couple sunspots here have advanced slightly in terms of complexity. That's going to be this region down here, but overall threat very minimal from that sunspot. Aside from that, everything else looks fairly stable in the flare department. Don't expect any major flares here from any of those sunspots. A little bit of the auroras kicking up here. Not really forecasted. Maybe KP index up around 3 today, it looks like, but no major events in the forecast, unfortunately. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off here. I am going to add a live stream webcam view in Southern California so we can observe and watch on the Hilary live stream. I'll have that on the other live stream as the tropical storm waves, right now hurricane waves, push up into the Baja California area, Southern California region, bringing some advancement, with the rainfall. But as it hits the Southern California area, it will obviously be a tropical storm, and we will be watching that on a webcam there. I've got a couple to choose from, but I will add that onto the live stream here today, so look forward to that. In the meantime, have a good day, folks, and we'll be here off and on. Stay prepared, and again, make sure you guys are well prepared down there in Southern California. There's a whole bunch of rain coming your way a little bit earlier than expected. Hilary is coming early to the party. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later. Have a good one.